So we're ready to go. Getting the timer ready. Not a lot to report. We are waiting and hoping. Here's, this is where the bill is. The bill, as you know, cleared the day that you guys testified. They exec the bill the next day. So it went to the Rules Committee. It's now on what's called the second reading review calendar. Now, from this position, it can be voted out and sent on to the governor. However, I am concerned. I would prefer to see the bill on a consent calendar or somewhere where it can be accessed quickly and voted on. So we're at the 50-50 things. It's either going to pass out by Friday or it's not. And we have to be ready for the possibility that the clock will run out. And it's just like, I will tell you, it's the furthest we've ever taken a bill, being one step from the governor. So we should take that as a victory. But it would be much better for all of us if I saw you in late March for a bill signing. And that's what I'm shooting for. I'm shooting for total touchdown, go to the bill signing with the governor. I think all of you should continue to email Representative Joan O'Brien, and say, please, you're on the Rules Committee, use your superpowers to pull our bill to a floor calendar. And also email Roger Goodman, who can help you inside the caucus with nudging people into helping with the bill. So now is the time for you to pour all of your energies into emails. The number one message is, this is a district priority bill because it's Lake Washington High School. And you, I don't know, did you guys do any top 10 lists as you were playing with this?
So I did have my kids send out one yesterday.
Did you show mine?
Yes, I did. And then I had them use yours or make revisions and kind of come up with their own. And so we sent that off to Chop, Christensen, and McBride. So the chairman, vice chairman, and then Joe McBride, who knows us and loves us. So kind of hoping that she would, as a former Lake Washington High School grad and former Mayor Kirkland, would really be helping us out here. So
that's Joan, or that's Shelley?
That's Joan McBride.
Okay. Also, you should add Shelley Coppola, first district, next door to your list. And anywhere where Lake Washington High School has students, if they're in the first, the 48th, and let's see what's next door besides that.
45th, I think might be
45th. Yeah, those 9 legislators should the 6 House members for sure should get emails, and go ahead and use the top 10 or variation of the top 10. Of course, my strongest ones were number 4 and number 5. Please, I'm running out of top 10 ideas, and number 4, please see number 5. Still my best comedy writing yet this session. So that's where we're at. Is we've and I think you've seen, this is literally an actual bill running exercise. Is the following: a group of people supporting a piece of legislation, working on a language, getting language back from the state officials, in this case the code revisor, watching the bill drop into the process, witnessing one hearing, witnessing passage out of the body, witnessing the second hearing, and now the whole, can we get this thing out of the House and off to the governor? So this is perhaps for you guys in terms of AP government. I don't know what your textbook and or lecture materials are syncing up, but the one thing about this exercise with Teach for TVW is this is literally how it works. This is literally how a bill runs, and you guys did it in real time. A lot of my legislative contacts want to treat this like a moot court, and they also would frankly sell you on youth legislature, which is in the summertime down here. Have any of you gone to Boys or Girls State yet in your academic careers? No. Okay. Boys and Girls State is for juniors in high school, and it's the summertime, usually at Central Washington University in Ellensburg. It's run by the American Legion, and it used to be literally a 6-day camp where the entire body, all boys, all girls, in separate gender weeks, right? Hence the Girls State and Boys State. You would meet and you would literally form up everything from city council to governor of Boys State, and then it's a competition. You also vote for elevation to a delegate to Boys Nation or Girls Nation, which is they select senators to go and do that. So that's that's another example of an academic program that works to try to teach the student on the complete mechanics of this, and so that's where it's at. I'm literally, that's all I have to report. We are waiting to see if we're going to go over the goal line here, and we'll know. We have till 5 p.m. Friday. So at some point, I'll be emailing Mr. Dawson at 5 o'clock or so, letting him know if it's truly bad news. I'm not going to report bad news until we get to bad news. For now, we are positive. We're going to move this thing through. If I am Washington State's football coach, my kids are being prepared. We're happy to be here. We're going to do our best job against the Huskies. I know it's been 15 years, but it could snow in Pullman. We can still win this thing. All hail Washington's. Are there any Cougars in the house? No. It's Husky Nation.
Mr. Dawson's like, you want to have?
So 5 p.m. Friday is when they can pull it out of rules and still have a chance to vote on the floor. Would that happen?
It has to be at 5 p.m. They have to say Senate Bill 6168, a measure from clerk will read. And then we have to be literally voted out of the chamber by 5 p.m. Friday.
Okay. So because
we have like 1.5 days to get out onto the floor. All right. We 24 to 36 hours. That's how narrow this window has become.
Okay.
And for a guy like me, it's like this is what people pay me money for. So now I start losing sleep and kind of tap my fingers waiting for paint to dry. Questions about anything?
So I guess I'll take them. So we've sent a number of emails to CHOP, Christensen, and McBride. Should we stop focusing on them and start focusing on others, or keep sending them more and more and more?
Just stay on them. When you guys start getting restraining orders, you've gone far enough.
Okay.
Okay.
Literally, in my line of work, when members say, go away, then I know that they got my message and that I can leave them alone. But no, the word pestering works. It really does. Pestering works. So, you guys should treat it the same way as if some, how do I put this? If Amazon owed you money for that, you'd stay on it, right? You stay on it until you got your money. Yeah. You should treat it like that. Treat it like money. Treat it like somebody owes you money.
Okay.
All right.
Questions?
All right. We heard that there was a privacy bill that was passed,
Oh yeah.
and I at least was wondering if you could maybe tell us a little bit about that. I actually hadn't heard about it until about 20 minutes ago. So,
Well, there's a couple of bills out there. Is anyone in the class on the student newspaper? Anybody?
you're not part of the pouch.
That's okay. There's a couple of things. There's a net neutrality bill that we passed. Washington would be the first state in the nation that would actually have a net neutrality bill. There are local control internet bills that have passed that are waiting governor's signature, and there's privacy legislation. What they're trying to do on the privacy legislation, which is also inside net neutrality, is actually allow you to block. As you know, there are applications. Google Chrome has it, Edge has it, and of course DuckDuckGo, which is a total blind, secure internet search engine. We know that we have privacy settings on all that we do. In theory, we click a button and then we're dark on. Let's use Google Chrome. So you click that one and you're dark. In theory, nobody knows that you're there, and nobody knows. But as you know, those internet ISP addresses, somebody has them. And the fact is that Google has them. And the question has always been, if I have selected privacy, can my internet service provider still sell my marketing information to third parties? Now, the biggest offender or the user of this is Facebook. It's so funny. If you all you have to do is use here's the best example. So you're looking for a new car. So you go to Kelley Blue Book to find out what what the best price is for a new car and also your favorite used car. And then they ask you to like them on Facebook. So you click like. Well, suddenly you start getting car ads in your Facebook feed. Well, obviously there's been some sharing of data and some internet mining. Washington State is looking at bills designed to restrict that. There is one big problem. It's called federal preemption. The fact is that internet service in the United States is actually governed by the Federal Trade Commission and the Federal Communications Commission. And the Trump administration literally rolled back all Obama era rules trying to restrict access to data and reduce privacy in the interest of businesses that want to mine and sell that data. So Washington is trying to protect us, but I don't know how effective those laws will be in a federal environment. A second big one is the Public Disclosures Act, Senate Bill 6617. The state Supreme Court ruled that all the records of the legislature are open to the Public Records Act. Historically, the legislature has been exempt from public disclosure, although over the years it has opened more and more of its bills and more of its processes to public record. The argument from the legislators themselves was, now if I'm an agency as the representative of the 28th or the 45th district, then I and my LA are public records officers, and then I'll have to disclose every constituent that's met me, every nature of business, every email. And the point of the fact is that argument is a false equivalency. The chief clerk of the House and the Secretary of the Senate are the chief administrative officers for the bodies. They run HR, they run records, they run travel, they run all the administrative functions of a government agency, and they would decide what's private and not private. I think what you really have in the legislature is we've had a number of high-profile instances of workplace harassment, sexual harassment, employment discrimination, and overall creepy behavior. And I think people are afraid that those skeletons could get out of the closet where they've been hid in some cases for nearly 30 years. So that's kind of, there's always a selfish interest in disclosure laws and hiding disclosure. Why is that important to you guys? Well, if you're a potential employee of the legislature, and many of you are, because either you'll be interns, and if you stay in the state and you want to stay in politics, if you want to become a legislative intern, that actually pays pretty good. It pays about $1,500 a month, which is enough to live on while you're down here. By comparison, when I was an intern in 1983, the monthly pay was, let's see, I made $140. So my take home was $298 a month, and of which my share of rent was $150. I lost 40 pounds. I mean, I lived on brown rice and green beans and whatever legislative receptions I could conjure, finger sandwiches from. And I walked from my apartment down about a mile down to the bottom of Capitol Lake to catch a van ride up to the state building. So I got a lot of walking in, and I ate sparingly because most of my check went to the rent, and then I had to live on the rest. $1,500 a month down here. If you can couch surf somewhere or get cheap, you can actually survive, although you still have to pay your college tuition and everything else. Being an employee for you guys is a much bigger deal now because health insurance issues that you have to face. If you're a woman, you have to check to make sure that if you want gynecological care, period, not just birth control, but I mean baby care, the whole 9 yards, you have to really thumb through their policy and find out if you're covered. And some of you will be making decisions on employment on money, on challenge of satisfaction of the potential job, or on access to benefits. And those things you'll have to absorb more. College student employment is rapidly becoming like regular employment. The UW offers benefits to student employees, and other things. So you guys have to learn more about disclosure and records as just to be an informed consumer of benefits, and also to not be a victim of bosses that don't tell you stuff. One comment I made on the whole Me Too movement and also hiding of employment records, excuse my vulgarity for a moment. If being an asshole boss was a barrier to higher office, my building would be a ghost town. We're we're a lot of bad bosses, and it's not party specific. How many people in your class, in your senior class right now, you close your eyes and think, I've got like 35 great people that I know that I hang out with. There's a whole bunch of people that I'm going to miss now that I figured out that they're good people. And then there's a limited number of people that, I just hope they don't walk in front of my car someday because I don't know what's going to happen. That reflects adult life. So that's what's going on. We are. Next question.
Well, do you think the governor is going to veto it? Because I know that there's been a lot of pressure on him over the last couple of days to veto the legislative privacy bill. Do you think he's going to veto it, or would that cause like?
If he asked my advice as a professional staffer, I would tell him to veto the bill and throw that mess back in the legislature's lap, make them hold hearings and do it in sunlight. My cynical, heartless political analysis says he's going to let it become law and let somebody sue. I mean, that's the one thing about today's governance that always bothers me. There's always a chance to sue, and a lot of legislators and executives do not take leadership positions because they're risk averse, and they figure, well, I'll let it go into law, and if it's really bad, somebody will sue, and the courts will fix it for me, which is not good governing. It's just political expediency. So, Mr. Dawson, I'm afraid he's probably going to let it go into law. I will be delighted if he vetoes it. I think this thing should be done in open light in front of the public.
So basically, pass the buck to the court.
Right, Mr. Johnson.
So basically, he's going to kind of pass the buck to the courts and let the Supreme Court say, no, that's unconstitutional and you can't keep it private. And then he can be like, oh, okay, well, I worked with you, Congress. I tried to have your back, but now we have to do something different, kind of thing.
We did it with McCleary. It's always been, it's not our fault. It's that pesky court. And with Hearst, with water, it's not our fault. It's that pesky court. It can make you cynical. It can make you really bitter.
I didn't know you could abuse the checks and balances system like that. That's exciting.
Yeah, well, when you start filling this place with lawyers, that's what happens. When we were teachers, when we were full of teachers and nurses and other professionals, the legislature was much more populist and much more geared towards the needs of the people.
I mean, are there, so if a lot of the bills have to be pushed out of committee by 5 p.m. Friday, I mean, what are some of the big ticket ones that they're maybe trying to rush out?
Well, let's take a look here. The House floor. Let me pick a floor calendar. Let's see here. They have on their floor calendar that they have not passed yet a total of, and your bill's not one of them, so keep in mind here. So they have 102 bills currently on their floor calendar for consideration between now and Friday. They have affordable housing and sales taxes. They have tobacco and vapor products and age. They have an oil transportation safety bill, senior property. They have, let's go to the Senate bills on consideration. Governmental continuity, employee awards, halibut fishery, AP computer science as a math course. So instead of Calc 4, you can take computers. Reproductive health coverage, the House has to pass out. Veterinary inspection certifications, student of freedom of expression, which is a student newspaper bill that Senator Fain is running. PDC and campaign finance rewrite legislation. Marijuana and financial services, like how can we get state banks to provide bank coverage for marijuana stores? I don't know if you know this. If you run a recreational pot store, you have to find a way to get that cash out of your store into some sort of place other than a big sock in the basement of the building that you're in. And it's a real risk. Any drug dealer is always at risk for theft. And when we first started having medical marijuana, you guys are aware of this, lots of home invasions of people growing pot. So trying to make something legal when you don't have a banking system to allow for the economic operation is difficult. Whether it's betting, sports betting, or weed or booze in the 1930s. Dyslexia, charity care. Yeah, there's a lot of serious bills up here on the House calendar, and on the Senate calendar. We have the same thing. The Senate is looking at building code changes. It is looking at. Let's take a look at the big floor calendar. Okay. All right, stand by. The Senate has about 60 bills on its calendar that they haven't decided yet. And they have also marijuana legislation. They have child welfare bills, apprenticeship bills, rewriting the state building code, getting people allowed to get married in limited jurisdictions of courts. Other county officials want to be able to marry you. I can marry you. I'm a member of the Church of the Latter-day Dude. I joined. And
wait, sorry.
I spent the full $35, and I got the card. Okay, so I am a Dudist priest, and I went to the Thurston County auditor and got my certification, so I can perform marriages. I can perform funerals. I try to only want to do second, third, and fourth weddings. So some of you may have to come back in a few years. But, I will just keep me in mind, that I promise it'll be a short, cheap, easy to follow service at a bowling alley. You should enjoy it very much. Any other questions? We're at 8 minutes and 30 seconds there, Mr. Dawson.
So does the session actually end Friday night?
No. The session ends on March 9th. The last week of this is going to be literally the reconciliation of bills. They have a couple of statewide initiatives that they have to process and decide what they're going to do. One of them is Initiative 940, which is a gun safety, police safety initiative that came out of a series of shootings of unarmed people, predominantly people of color. Okay, let me rephrase that. They were all of color. And there's a lot of questions about how, there's a lot of, even in the room in front of me, some of you, when you're pulled over by the police, don't have to worry about how it's going to turn out. Some of you do, and that's a cultural thing. I have, as a 56-year-old white male, I generally am not going to have an adverse consequence with a police officer. All right. If I'm an 18-year-old Latino male, I gotta watch myself. That's a societal thing, and we have to figure out what to do with police officers in terms of their training. We have to figure out how much training can we put into. Think about here's another big issue that we haven't talked about. How many of you have thought about being teachers or being a teacher at either the high school or K-12 level? You have to raise your hands, but did you really want to get into the teaching business to shoot children? I mean, is that what we're looking for?
Well, I don't think that's the give teachers gun argument. I don't think they're trying to shoot kids.
But think about to use a weapon the way that the president would want you to use it, you have to be willing to be that person with those special skills to be able to whip the weapon out and drop the bad guy. I've talked to, I have a lot of friends of mine who are teachers, and they say what happens if I shoot the wrong person? What happens if I get winged? What happens if, there's like a whole mindset about arming schools that, as a guy of my age and my culture, I don't buy. And I don't think schools should be fortresses. I haven't been to Lake Washington. Are you a multi-building campus? Are you one big building?
We have portables.
Yeah, that's about it.
So you're mostly portables?
No, we have a few portables, but we're pretty much just one big building.
Yeah. There are other high schools that are multiple buildings. They're like small college campuses. It's to me, it's a false sense of security, and I'm not really sure how many parents want armed teachers in their classrooms. I think the rooms should be able to be locked more securely. It would be nice if Mr. Dawson or a student, if Mr. Dawson were hurt, could hit a red button and the doors would lock and steel shutters would roll over windows and the place would be a safe house until the threat had passed. That would be one thing. But everyone wants a cheap solution to school safety. Now, we did have a bill and Senate Ways and Means on Monday that would further ban. I don't know if Mr. Dawson told you, Washington State right now has a statutory ban on armed people in schools with 3 very limited exceptions. And it's, from what I know, only one school district, Toppenish, has armed teachers. So it's a state by state phenomenon. The governor got in the president's face at a White House meeting earlier this week and said, less tweeting and more listening. But I think for next year, I think armed schools in 2019 is going to be a thing here. I think it's going to be a big policy discussion. And I'm not looking forward to it. In fact, Mr. Dawson, we may want to change. If we don't get this bill signed into law, next year's class might be doing school safety.
I was going to say, would that be something that Roger Goodman would be involved
Very much so.
Public safety kind of thing?
Very much so.
We could work on with him, so that way we could work with him as well on a bill that kind of deals with gun control and arming teachers, or just all this kind of in general kind of stuff.
Well, and you guys are going to see a carbon initiative this summer too. How many of you are 18 already? A few. How many of you are registered to vote yet? Well, you're motor voters. You probably are registered via your driver's license. Okay. 3 minutes.
So basically, again, just voting ends Friday night, but then they just have like a week long of just finishing up nuts and bolts, but they can't pass any new bill out.
They'll go out on the floor and they'll move legislation. It'll be mostly gubernatorial appointments and memorials and resolutions. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the budget will be, the operating budget will be negotiated, and the capital budget will be reconciled and negotiated, and that'll be a team of about 8 people that'll be doing that.
Okay.
So as of right now, our bill is like on the calendar, but it's really far away from.
It's far, far away, and we need to get closer to Narina.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to ask about his opinion. What would you do about gun control? What do you think?
The societal change is significant. In a perfect world, that's my personal opinion. Full disclosure, I was an Army reservist, so I actually have handled automatic weapons. The AR-15, the AK-47, the SKS-8, anything that's handed to a soldier, a rifleman, does not belong in civilian society. There is no compelling reason for us to sell AK-47s to anybody in the general public. I just don't see the value of it. You can't really. The only thing they're designed to do is kill people, right? They're not. I don't really. You don't use an AK-47 to hunt deer unless the deer themselves are armed. There also should be, in a perfect world, we would not have those, and in a perfect world, if you're going to currently own assault weapons as part of your gun collection, then the gun license for you should be that of a dealer or trader, so that you actually have, you want to stop gun violence, and you want to stop, you'll have to make it too expensive to be sued if you're the one who sold the weapon. Because right now, to me, the gun debate is like this. We have legitimate gun owners that are good people that like their collection of assault weapons. They like to play with their big, loud toys that shoot things. That's how they view them. And you've heard the arguments on TV. As a responsible gun owner, I know what to do with my gun. It's safe. I have a gun safe and everything else. And because of that, don't take my gun away because I'm responsible. Well, the problem isn't with you. The problem is with the irresponsible people who sell guns to their son or nephew who lives deep in a basement, who's been conspiring against his enemies and has spoken openly of hurting people. That's the type of person we shouldn't be selling weapons to, because we can figure out how this plays out. That requires our society to do more than hopes and prayers. So there would be, first, you would get new sales off and removed. You would move the age of ownership to 21. You would create owners of weapons would have to get new licenses allowing for sales and trade, and the liability that would attach, you'd make them buy liability insurance. And that cost alone would make them reconsider their position. And you would also figure out how to address workplace safety. You know, most of the people who get killed in gun shootings are teachers, right? A lot of teachers die in gun shootings. So superintendents and bargaining units and principals all have to come to an agreement of what their school safety plan is going to be. I don't think it's a cookie cutter. I think a school safety plan in Inchelium High School is going to be a lot different than Lake Washington. And we have to give local governments, whether it's school boards or administrators, the flexibility to implement common sense solutions. Right now, there's no guidance, and to me, we have to do something. Washington probably would come up with something that would be more restrictive than other states, but all of these things will have to pass some sort of constitutional scrutiny. So that's the fifth piece, which is, will the federal courts do something about Second Amendment cases? We have been deciding on the second clause of the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms shall not be impinged. That's been case law since about 1910. And we have to revisit the topic. That's it. I talked through the whole thing.
Thank you very much.
You guys will know by Friday how we're doing.
All right.
Okay,
Awesome.
We'll send
thank
off those
you.
emails.
All right, you guys take care. It's been a
Thank
pleasure. You guys have been wonderful to work with again. I hope you have a great semester and that you get out, graduate, and go off to where you want to go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We'll speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.